company year after year. Iams Cat Foods, good for life, from the Iams Company.
Here's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Floyd is no longer a hurricane. It's just been downgraded to a tropical storm, but flooding is still a major problem as Floyd continues to make its way up the East Coast. Welcome to Weather Center. I'm Dave Schwartz. We're sponsored this hour by GM Parts. Well, conditions across the rest of the country are relatively quiet in comparison. We'll get to that and your forecast. But first, let's get right to the Forecast Center and Christina Abernathy for the latest on Floyd.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. And as Dave mentioned, Floyd is now a tropical storm, and while the winds are, maximum sustained winds are 65 miles per hour, the big problem now is going to be the heavy rain and the flooding problems that will result. Let's take a look at some of the latest, including what President Clinton said when he spoke to FEMA officials earlier today. Clinton said he has earmarked $525 to $528 million in new federal assistance to help recover from Hurricane Floyd. He also declared a disaster emergency for the state of Virginia, allowing immediate federal aid for recovery and protective measures. Also, he declared a major disaster for North Carolina, opening the door to federal aid for individual victims of the storm. Clinton did defend the massive evacuation of more than 3 million people, even though the storm missed some evacuated areas like Florida. He added lives were saved by the evacuation.
But I think that this was a terrific test, even though it was extremely burdensome, because someday our ability to do this evacuation will save hundreds of people's lives.
Other headlines being made by Floyd include several counties in the state of Pennsylvania have been placed under a state of emergency. They join New Jersey, Maryland, and of course Virginia. In New Jersey, Floyd has knocked out power to about 40,000 customers. In Newark, a substation flooded, taking both gas and electricity from some 25,000 residents. Airlines and train service all up and down the East Coast have experienced massive delays, and flooding has caused road closures as well. Well, we want to take a look at the latest statistics concerning Floyd, which again is now a tropical storm. As of 5 p.m., it was centered at 39.3 north, 74.6 west. That puts the center about 10 miles south of Atlantic City, New Jersey. The winds are now down to 65 miles per hour, and it is racing off to the north-northeast at 30 miles per hour, and the pressure 974 millibars. And we do have tropical storm warnings that are in effect now from Cape Charles, Virginia to the Merrimack River, Massachusetts. And we also have gale warnings in effect from the Merrimack River to Eastport, Maine. So 39 to 54 mile per hour winds are anticipated there. So we definitely have still a very serious situation, flooding a major concern. We're joined now by our severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes. And Dr. Forbes, even in some of the areas where the rain is over now, they're still experiencing flooding problems.
That's right, Christina. For example, down toward Norfolk, there are still flood warnings in effect. 6 to 12 inches of rain have fallen over most parts of southeastern Virginia. Yorktown had 17 inches, and so all of that rain couldn't be absorbed by the ground, and so it's running off now. On the other hand, there are still places where it's raining very heavily. Trenton, New Jersey had an inch in the past hour. Philadelphia is still 2/3 of an inch. Boston about a half inch. Here is where there are flash flood and flood warning watches in effect. Still conditions favorable for heavy rain. Basically now, from this area north is still raining. Philadelphia will soon end, and Wilmington, Delaware is letting up right now. These are where flash flood warnings or flood warnings are in effect. Many places all the way from Connecticut and Rhode Island, still down into parts of Virginia and even North Carolina. Here's where the rain is most heavy at the this very instant. It goes from New Jersey up toward the New York City area, just a little bit north of New York City, and then over into parts of eastern New England.
So again, folks in the Northeast can expect rain to continue for a while longer, and then through New England?
That's right. Most of the rain for Pennsylvania and New Jersey should end by about 10 p.m., but it'll continue then into past midnight and the wee hours of the morning the farther you get up toward New England.
All right, Dr. Greg Forbes, thanks a lot for that information. Well, now we want to go to our hurricane expert desk. For that, we go to John Hope. What's the latest?
Well, thank you, Christina. Good evening, everybody. Well, I guess the good news is that Floyd is no longer a hurricane. It's been downgraded to a tropical storm with top winds of 65 miles an hour. And those winds even are east of the center. We're not seeing any winds like that reported on land anywhere now. Let's go ahead and look at some satellite pictures. We'll look at the we'll look at the water vapor imagery first, and you can see that this is moving right along. And as Dr. Forbes just told you, the rain's going to be ending during the evening here in Maryland and Pennsylvania. This is moving out pretty fast. The center is right around Atlantic City, New Jersey. And as soon as this center moves beyond the area, then the rain will end. And that's good news, because that's at least cutting down the duration, and that means a whole lot. So we're not going to see the kind of flooding that we saw in the Susquehanna Valley, for example, with Hurricane Agnes. Getting kind of dark here, but here we can see the center on the visible picture moving pretty rapidly now. It's actually moving towards the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. And here's the radar, and this shows you where the heaviest rain is. Some of the very heaviest we see now is across New Jersey and even upstate New York. Some very heavy rain there as well. And heavy rains also very heavy over portions of Massachusetts and Connecticut. And of course in New England it's going to last several more hours, because it'll be a while before the low center gets up there. But these are the kind of gusts we're seeing on land, and nothing anywhere near even the hurricane, of course, and not too many above tropical storm strength, a few. Now, the forecast SWA still takes this rapidly. It's going to clear all the United States by the middle of the night here, for sure, except down East Maine, and that might linger on a little bit longer. So now flooding is the main problem. This Doppler radar shows you where we've had up to 15 inches of rain, tremendous rain from about Baltimore on up toward Philadelphia and Willow Grove. That'll wind us up for this time. Now back to Christina in the Forecast Center.
All right, John Hope, thanks a lot for that update. Well, of course, we've been covering Floyd live on the scene up and down the East Coast, and we're joined now by Jim Cantori, who joins us from Point Lookout, New York. Jim, how are things there?
Well, Christina, the weather's gone downhill in a real hurry here, and also, too, the winds have shifted around from the southeast a little bit more, so the center of this thing could very well go to our west here later on this afternoon and on into tonight. Well, when I asked Rosemary Murphy to talk to us, she's a city teacher in Queens, it was dry. And I appreciate you coming out. That's why I want to kind of get this over with as quick as we can for you. But how's it feel actually have schools closed for the first time on a non-snow event in the city of New York?
I was very surprised. I haven't seen the schools closed like that never. I never saw the schools closed like that. I was surprised when I was leaving this morning and I heard that New York City schools were closed. I took a retake. And I went back and I had to heard it again. And then I had to call a few of my teachers that I carpool with. And, you know, we were lucky we stayed home. So
but after being out in this, it was probably a good call, wasn't it?
I think it was an excellent call.
All right, thanks a lot, Rosemary. I appreciate you being out in this. And no doubt, it's a little ugly here. You can tell. As you can see behind me here, this is a jetty that we're dealing with. We're facing due south, so the winds are coming in out of the east-southeast right now, and they've turned around a little bit, so we could very well deal with the center of this thing a little bit later on tonight. Now, these waves are not as huge as they could be because we're actually protected from Jones Beach, which is just down the road a little bit. But the waves are still huge, and they're even bigger offshore. We're talking about 15 to 20 feet. I've got a handheld anemometer here. I'm going to have my cameraman Randy Frostic zoom in on, and you can see what kind of wind we are dealing with here. This is instantaneous gust, so you're going to see what the instantaneous wind is, and we're up around 22 miles an hour here. We have had gusts as high as 46, so we continue to see an increase. And even as a result of these winds, folks, you say, oh, that's really not that bad, Jim, but we have lost power here. About 900 homes here in Nassau County, and about 26,000, believe it or not, already on the island, Long Island. So even with this wind, we've got enough wetness in the soil that could definitely topple some power lines and also some trees. So folks, again, batten down the hatches tonight. Looks like we're going to deal with the worst of this system between 7 and 10 o'clock, and hopefully by the time tomorrow rolls around, we will just have had a good soaking and not much else. We'll keep you posted here from the South Shore of Long Island. Right now, Christina, let's go back to you.
All right, Jim, you and Randy, take care out there. Of course, as you just saw, the wind is going to be a problem, but the rain also a problem. Flooding is going to be a major concern across the northeast and southward. Here are some of the totals we've seen so far. Wilmington, 19 inches of rain, over 17 inches of rain in Yorktown. The list goes on, and in many of these areas across the northeast, it is still raining, so no doubt we will see those tallies on the increase. Of course, we'll keep you updated on the latest on Hurricane Floyd, and if you need additional information and you can't be near your TV set, please check us out online at weather.com. But for now, we head back to the studio for the rest of the country's weather with Dave.
Thanks, Christina. And aside from this mess that we've got here in the Northeast, and by the way, I just checked the observation out of JFK Airport, not far from where Jim Cantori is live. They've got a wind gust to 54 miles per hour right now, and incoming flights into LaGuardia reporting moderate to severe turbulence. So undoubtedly there are just major delays here in the Northeast. And if you're waiting for somebody who's flying in from, say, even Raleigh-Durham back to Chicago, for example, where we've got quiet weather, there may very well be some delays. So call ahead to your carrier and see what exactly you're up against before you head out to the airport. Look at this explosion of thunderstorms. That's the other storm, this not tropical in nature as this one was, came right up out of the Atlantic. This is an upper level disturbance in association with some moisture that's worked its way up from the southwest and southeast, and a severe thunderstorm watch is in effect for mostly the northern half of the state of Arizona. We just had a report of a severe thunderstorm here in Garfield County in southern Utah, right in here, severe thunderstorm warning. And this cell right here, as we get in a little bit closer on Arizona, was warned. The people west of Winslow were warned on this one. This may have produced a tornado. A few thunder showers down toward the South Mountain, or just southwest of South Mountain in Arizona. Otherwise, the weather is nice and quiet, except for that tropical storm that is headed up the East Coast. Look at this. Freeze advisories in effect here tonight, right underneath that area of high pressure. High pressure hangs around. Low pressure, the tropical storm, goes bye-bye later tonight and tomorrow. Well, Floyd is obviously causing some travel problems in the Northeast and elsewhere. We'll detail what you can expect next.
This program was brought to you by your select GM Goodwrench Service Plus dealers. The plus means better.
Some people get nervous when that door goes up.